Hello and welcome to Let's Review. A long time ago, all the way back in 1993 when I was a whole 1 year old, a game was released that would forever change the future of the medium. That game was Doom, and it was the originator of the FPS genre. And now, after more than a decade, it's back again. This time with a reboot rather than a sequel. So the question is, how well does Doom hold up to its vaunted ancestry? Well, to answer that, we start as we always do, with the gameplay. Doom is a squad-based third-person tactical RPG. Now I'm dicking with you, it's an FPS, but let's be honest, what else would it be? However, as with an awful lot of FPS games these days, it does include some minor RPG elements in the form of an upgrade system. Or, since Doom has to be over the top, it's actually technically got 3.
Doom has a number of upgrade screens. This one relates to the Praetor suit, the green power armor that the Doom Marine wears. This is upgraded through these tokens here. You acquire these by finding red elite guards and by pulling data chips out of their armor. Those guys are always dead when you find them, so you don't have to fight them for them or anything like that. It's basically just a neat way of finding the pickups. Those upgrades are put into one of various things here. So we have environmental resistance, for example, which I've already got because this is me going back to replay a particular level with all the upgrades and weapons that I've unlocked by the end of the game. So here we have various levels of hazard protection, so decrease explosive barrel and environmental damage, decrease the amount of weapon self-damage, that's things like splashback from my rocket launcher, and that one which is complete immunity to explosive barrel damage. That is very useful because, well, there's lots of explosive barrels, and quite frankly it can be funny as hell to lure a group of enemies in and then just blow it up while he's standing right next to it and take no damage at all. There's also area scanning, so here for example it allows you to find secret areas more easily. And this is the one I'm currently working on upgrading, which is our equipment. Equipment in this case basically means grenades. So the decrease in the rapidity of which you can use them is very useful. So once I get one more upgrade point, I'll be spending them on that. There's also the Argent Cell routing. These are very specific upgrades that are found throughout the game, and each one of them will allow you to add 1 point to either your health rating, which gives you 25 extra health, your armor rating, which gives you 25 extra armor, or your ammunition rating, which gives you additional quantities of ammunition. That's all fairly self-evident, and those upgrades are very, very useful. As you can see, I've maxed out my ammunition, and my health and armor are pretty good. I've only need 3 more cells to actually fully upgrade that part of the suit. Then we have the weapon upgrades. Now, as you can see, I have an awful lot of available weapon upgrade points. I have 33 of these. These are gained a number of ways. You can complete challenges. So if, for example, I go here, there are 3 challenges on each mission. So here there's interact with a runestone, acquire the auto map for the facility, and perform 2 death from above glory kills on Hell Knights. These are certainly possible to get, and this does show everything that's in this area. You know, those are things I've found, and the grey ones are things I have not found. And as I say, I am replaying this mission, hence why some stuff has already been found. The other way to gain upgrade points is to just do particularly well on a mission. You know, for each rank of combat skill you get, you will gain a weapon upgrade point. You'll get those without even really noticing it, because that doesn't require any special skill, it just requires you to kill everything you come in contact with. You completely clear the level, you'll get all the upgrade points absolutely fine. In fact, you don't even need to completely clear the level most of the time. Most of the weapons, there are a couple of exceptions, those being the super shotgun and the pistol, I believe, can be upgraded with field drones. And what field drones do is unlock one of these 2 things. And you have the choice whenever you find a field drone of what you want to unlock. So as you can see, for example here, I don't have this upgrade, which is a aim down sights ability for this rifle, but I do have this upgrade which adds micro missiles, and I've upgraded all the micro missile abilities with these upgrade points. So the first one was reduce the cost, then greatly improve the reload time, activated immediately the second I hit the right mouse button, And eventually you can unlock bottomless missiles, which allows you to fire it indefinitely without needing to reload. That is, of course, hideously useful. It's worth noting that the bottom rank can only be unlocked once you complete a challenge. So in order to unlock that challenge, you buy all 3 of these upgrades, and then the challenge in this case was to stick 5 enemies with micro missiles in the space of, I think it was 5 seconds. Which is not that difficult, providing the enemies have the decency to cluster in just the right way. So I'll freely admit I picked that one up without specifically attempting to do the challenge. If I look at my combat shotgun here, for example, I didn't bother spending the upgrades to unlock these things, but if I wanted to, I could. And since I found 2 field drones very early, when the only weapon I was able to upgrade was this shotgun, I have both of the things for this one unlocked. You can swap between them in combat just by pressing the R key, and I'll demonstrate that once we get onto the actual gameplay. But just for the sake of demonstrating, I'll actually demonstrate the upgrades by upgrading my pistol. Your pistol is, of course, your most basic, relatively weak thing. And each time you upgrade, the next upgrade's going to cost a little bit more. But at the moment, I've got the upgrade points that I can very happily afford all those. And I now need to get 15 headshot kills with the charged energy shot in order to increase the power of the charged energy shot, which is basically the alternate fire. So there is a reasonable amount of customization here depending on what you want to do with it. So micro missiles or more precise aiming. Everybody agrees that's a fairly obvious choice. The super shotgun doesn't actually have anything that you can gain via field drones, much like the pistol, but it can be upgraded either way. So I've got the faster reload, and I've got the shots penetrating through multiple targets. And once I've managed to kill multiple demons with it 30 times, I'm currently on 11 of 30, it will be able to fire twice without having to reload, which is very, very handy. And fundamentally, that's kind of it for the upgrades. There are also the runes, and you get these by completing certain challenges when you find them. And each rune can be upgraded. So here we have Dazed and Confused, which increases the amount of time the demons spend in the stagger state. And you upgrade that by getting a load of Death from Above kills. There's also the Armored Offensive, which means they drop armor when I kill them with a glory kill. And again, that got upgraded because I picked up a certain amount of armor. And I could swap to Ammo Boost, Equipment Power, or any one of these that I have unlocked by finding the Challenge Stone and completing the challenge. And fundamentally, that's basically it for the Doom upgrade systems.
The upgrade system works pretty well, and it is a reasonable addition, although I'll freely admit hunting for some of the upgrades can be a little bit of a pain in the neck, especially the field drones for your weapon modifications. With that said, however, all of that is really just in service to the main game itself. And that, of course, is extremely violent.
This is the main combat gameplay of Doom, and I'm expecting some bad guys to turn up fairly soon because, well, they always do. As you can see, you move at a fairly hefty clip in this game. There is a very rapid amount of movement here, and you also have a double jump ability, or at least you do once you unlock it. That's a story-based event that requires you to get the item that allows you to double jump. It's a pair of double jump boots, which is just so wonderfully old school that I freely admit I kind of love it. So, down we go. There is a little bit of platforming in this game. There's not a hideous amount, but there certainly is some. That over there is an armor pickup, but I'm not going to bother going to it because, as you can see, I currently have full health and armor. Or at least I do, based on the upgrades I currently have. See, more armor pickups there. Health does not regenerate in this game, obviously. It would not be a proper Doom game if it did. So, health and armor are regenerated by finding the pickups in the level. And we can hear the enemies now. Here they come. So once combat actually begins, it's a fairly standard first-person shooter. Point gun at enemy, pull trigger. Where are you? Trust me, if you can hear an enemy, they're somewhere nearby. There it is. And this is my super shotgun, because this is the kind of game that lets you carry about 12 different guns, which is very nice. It's a lot of fairly creepy imagery. Gotta love the fact I've managed to find the one bit of the game that doesn't have legions of enemies. There we go. So, lots and lots of bad guys coming at you at once. This is a fairly small-scale fight in the grand scheme of things. And that allows me to demonstrate the glory kill system. The glory kill system is what's really new to this game. In that, when you weaken an enemy but don't actually kill them, you can get them in position for a glory kill. They start flashing orange like that, and all you have to do is get close to them and initiate a melee strike, and you will kill them in some brutal way. If you do that, they are guaranteed to drop a health pickup, which is obviously very useful for keeping your health high during longer combat engagements. Since I have the rune equipped that also causes them to drop armor when they get glory kills, it's particularly useful for me. That chappie there is a Hell Knight, who's one of the tougher enemies. Obviously by this point, since I've got several powerful and well upgraded weapons, like this chain gun for example, I can weaken him a lot. And that was a death from above glory kill, which is exactly the same as a normal one, just with different animations. There are a lot of different animations in this game, to the point where somebody has actually attempted to record all of them, and they've managed to get over 10 minutes worth of footage of just those glory kill animations. And let's be honest, you saw how fast they are. They're only about 5 or 6 seconds long each. That is a field drone enough. I can... Nope. I don't. There is a bug in this game where if you can catch a field drone while it's in the air, you'll actually effectively follow it through the air until you reach its destination. It's a bug, but it's quite a useful one on occasion. Though you've got to time the grab perfectly. But anyway, that honestly is a fairly decent overview of the combat. There are a lot of different weapons available. I mean, I've got this chain gun, ghost cannon, super shotgun, rocket launcher, plasma rifle, assault rifle, shotgun, and your pistol. And of course, there is the BFG, which is on its own separate button, so you don't have to scroll through anything. And the chainsaw. I'm going to demonstrate the chainsaw just because I think you should see it. Yeah. The chainsaw is basically designed so that you will never run out of ammunition, because the chainsaw turns the enemies into pinatas. If an enemy gets hit with the chainsaw, it will use up an appropriate amount of fuel in order to kill it. Won't do anything if you don't have sufficient fuel. And then the enemy will die and will drop an obscene amount of ammunition. This is extremely useful for topping up reserves when you start to get a bit low. And I cannot overstate its usefulness as a combat tactic. It's also good early on when you don't have particularly powerful weapons as a way to take out some of the more dangerous enemies. So while I have the firepower now to kill that Hell Knight pretty easily, the first time I played through this level, I made heavy use of the chainsaw against those guys, just because they were quite powerful and do take a little bit of killing. Now, just for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to show off the BFG, which is normally a lot better than that. That kind of did bugger all. There we go. Yes, the BFG is primarily good for taking out certain high-value targets. So, Hell Knight or a Baron of Hell turns up, for example, it's pretty good against that. But the ammo for it is, of course, suitably rare. So the odds of you being able to just, use it willy-nilly are basically zero. Dang it. Because I suspect there's a secret area over there, but getting to it can be a little bit tricky. But, yes, anyway. Because there are a lot of secret areas hidden all over the place, and some of them are quite, fun. Some of them are quite cute, actually. But, yeah, fundamentally, that's kind of it for the gameplay of Doom. It is very, very violent. Those things, incidentally, will keep summoning enemies until you destroy them like that. But because the movement speed is so high, it's actually not difficult at all to get in close and take them out. And really, that is kind of it. But it is a hell of a lot of fun.
Doom is messy, Doom is violent, and Doom moves at a pace that an awful lot of people are going to hate. But personally, I absolutely love it. I have not played a game this cathartic since Warhammer 40k Space Marine. The glory kill system in particular works shockingly well because the animations are fast and violent as all hell, and they encourage you to get close in with the monsters. If you're the sort of player who prefers staying at a distance and sniping at enemies, you're going to want to play something else. If you're the kind of guy who likes complicated tactics, you're going to want to play something else. But if you like fast, enjoyable combat that encourages you to get up close and very, very violent, I can absolutely recommend Doom. With that caveat, if you're a fan of the original, you should be aware that to the best of my knowledge, there are no new monsters in this game. Every one of them is taken from the original Doom game. Now, personally, I haven't actually played the original Doom, so I don't have a problem with that, as there is a decent amount of enemy variety, but some people might find that a little disappointing. Personally, though, I think Doom is going to be one of those games that I fire up every so often whenever I feel the need to rip something's spine out. The story of Doom is pretty straightforward. You are the Doom Marine, a power armor-encased badass who makes the legions of hell wet their beds in terror. You awaken on Mars to find a base overrun by demonic forces, and you set out to take the facility back single-handedly. Well, mostly single-handedly. You've also got the assistance of a cyborg who thinks it's a good idea to use hell as a power source. That does not seem like a wise idea. Actually, it's a terrible idea, but when's that ever stopped anyone? Honestly, the most interesting thing about this plotline is the Doom Marine himself. It's heavily implied that he's some sort of eternal warrior, the Doom Slayer, something that makes hell absolutely terrified, and that he's been awoken time and time again to combat the forces of hell and push them back down the pit where they belong. There's also some implications that his Praetor armor was actually forged in hell itself, and you encounter several ghostly visions of previous versions of the Doom Marine, who are all encased in more knightly armour. It's honestly one of the most interesting ideas this game has, and it's a pity that it's mostly relegated to the Codex. You mean you have managed to find a Codex that you actually want to read? Oh yeah, I mean there's some very interesting background stuff in there, and frankly, I would have liked to see a little bit more of it. It's well worth reading. The main plot is pretty predictable. You go back and forth to hell trying to stop the incursion, and you have the assistance of Samuel Hayden, the head of the base, who, as I mentioned earlier, is a cyborg, and you're opposed by a crazy scientist cultist woman who, for some reason, thinks that opening the gates to hell is a fantastic idea. I'll be honest, you can tell pretty much where all of it's going to go right from the outset, and it does suffer from a particularly irritating ending. Sequel bait? Massive sequel bait. While the ending boss fight is actually a really good, really satisfying fight, the events that come just after it are very, very predictable and very, very annoying because there's nothing you can do about it. I actually predicted what was going to happen with relation to this character very early on, and I'm disappointed that it doesn't really resolve. It just kind of ends up leaving it hanging in a sequel bait ending, which is kind of annoying. If this game gets a sequel, and I genuinely hope it does, I would love to see them dig more into the more interesting aspects of their lore. Is the Doom Marine really this Doom Slayer we hear about? How did he end up in the sarcophagus? And what in the hell is going on in hell in this context? And overall, I'd really love to see them explore that stuff. Well, I suppose the fact that you actually seem to want a sequel should be considered a promising sign. Oh, absolutely. It should be noted that there has been some disappointment expressed from fans of Doom 3 that this game has completely dropped that game's horror overtones. Now, personally, I don't have a problem with that. Horror is never a particularly appealing genre to me, and the fun, frantic atmosphere of this game is much more to my personal taste. It's also got just enough moments of humour, usually in the subtle things that the Doom Marine himself does, to actually lighten the tone enough, even though you're doing fairly unpleasant things. And overall, it's just a damn fun, enjoyable experience. I just wish they'd had the nerve to do a little bit more with the genuinely good ideas they had, rather than leaving them relegated to the Codex. But overall, it's perfectly functional. Graphically speaking, this game is gorgeous. There's a lot of very nice texture work, and overall it just looks fantastic, especially some of the effects. With that said, I have noticed a little bit of popping on occasion, which can be kind of annoying, but it's not too bad. And I'm also fairly impressed that the game managed to hold 60 frames a second even while I was recording, which can be quite a feat. Overall, it's a pretty good technical achievement, although I did notice at least one complete crash back to desktop, which was kind of annoying. For the most part, though, the technical aspects have been handled very nicely. The art style here is really quite good. A lot of the monster designs in particular are absolutely great, though as I mentioned earlier they are mostly taken from the original Doom, although they have been updated very nicely. The level designs are also pretty good, and they're also very intuitively designed, so very well done there. But overall, I think I can say that the art team has done a very good job updating Doom for the modern age. The soundtrack is really, really good. It's got this great mix of metal and choral, and it works way better than it has any right to. The sound effects, likewise, are really quite good, although once again, I think the guns needed a little bit more oomph, but that's a fairly common complaint for me. It's also worth noting that the sound effects when you're ripping apart enemies are really, really horrible to listen to, and that's a good thing. It's also worth noting that the voice acting for this game is pretty good for the most part. Although it's fairly limited, since there's only about 3 characters outside the Doom Marine who doesn't actually talk, those actors all do pretty well with the parts they've been given, even if a lot of it is exposition based. Although I do particularly enjoy the announcer chappie, whose corporate slogans get increasingly evil as you go throughout the game. Overall, the audio team has done an excellent job here. So, did I enjoy Doom? Absolutely, yes, I did. Should you buy it? Doom is a very old school FPS with an awful lot of modern trappings. Some people are not going to like that, but personally, I really do. I think it's managed to combine a lot of good elements from both into a very fun, very satisfying experience. It is fast, it is brutal, and it is absolutely a hell of a good time. Pun absolutely intended. Overall, it's very much a throwback, but if that's your kind of thing, you'll get a lot of fun out of this one. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got this weird feeling that I'm missing something. I'm going to go check it out. I'll see you later. Martin, where's Talon? To the best of my knowledge, it should be in the drawer where you normally leave it. Well, it's not. Very well, give me a moment. Richard, it is not inside the house. Are you sure? Very. That is somewhat worrying. Oh, you think? One of the most powerful artifacts on the planet has gone missing, and it's somewhat worrying. Well, perhaps we should have stored it in a more secure location than a kitchen drawer. I know, but you are the one who laid the defensive wards. You are the one who said, and I quote, "Oh, don't worry, nothing evil can get inside this house." And it can't, and that implies... Oh, no. What? Vanessa. She would not set off my ward. She's human after all. You really think... That call last week, when she asked to meet us and then turned up late herself, you're thinking she wanted us out of the house. She took Talon. But why would she? I mean, even leaving your wards aside, how would she get in the house? The doors still have locks on them. I don't know, but assuming my assumptions are correct, then she must have had a reason. And if you're wrong? Then it was taken by person or persons unknown, and we have nothing to go on. Alright, I will trust your paranoia. So what do we do? Actually, I have an idea.